So welcome to episode 1B of Caravan Days. We actually did film episode 1 shakedown in our new Crusader caravan, which we went away for our first trip this weekend, and the intent of that episode was to literally film everything as complete novices in a caravan and film all the stuff ups. Unfortunately, the SD card got corrupted in the camera, so we've lost all that footage. So I have got some bits of footage that we captured on the phone, which I'll embed into this video. But I suppose for the sake of authenticity and trying to keep the channel as authentic as possible, I don't want to go back and act that sort of first shakedown trip. So the intent of the trip, as I said, was just to try everything out in our new Crusader caravan. And we did find some issues, which was the point of the trip. Unfortunately, we've lost all that, so I'm going to have to sort of recap of those issues. So there was 3 minor issues and 1 major issue, which I think is going to be quite an important part to the first part of this YouTube channel anyway, because it's actually quite a big deal. So I might touch on the minor stuff first. So the first issue related to our water. So here's the control panel. Just take the control panel off. So we've got 2 freshwater tanks, so freshwater 1 and 2, both 110 litres, so all up we've got 220 litres of fresh water. Now the gauge at the moment is showing 0% on both because they're empty, but during our shakedown trip we had them full, so both at 100%, and then we've got our waste water or grey water here. So what we noticed once we started to use this water and sort of fill up the waste container, this gauge didn't move at all. So there's an issue here with that sensor, so just that needs to get looked at. So that was the first issue. So it was only a minor issue, didn't affect the trip. We just isolated that tank and just allow the wastewater just to seep onto the ground. The other issue we have relates to our TVs, which sit here, and then we've got one in the bedroom as well. I haven't got it set up at the moment, but we just had trouble tuning it. So I'm not sure whether it was an issue with the antenna. I don't think so. It's probably where we were positioned. We were below a cliff line at the beach, so I suspect we were struggling with signal. We have the same problem here actually at home where we are at the moment. So we're currently at home on a pretty cold winter's day in Sydney, and we also have that problem with normal terrestrial TV. So I'm not going to try and tune that here, but I'm thinking at this stage that's probably just a location issue more than an antenna issue, but we'll keep an eye on that as well. And then the last issue we had related to our induction cooktop, which just doesn't seem to work. So it's getting power to it, but there doesn't appear to be any heat coming from it. So you need an induction compatible pan, and then it'll work. So my friend Karen told me this, so you're not going to get any heat coming out of it like that. And then I can feel the heat coming out there now. So that was a classic noob error. And I suppose that's the point of our Caravan Days channel. It's to show our learnings, our steep learning curve for being brand new at caravanning. But these are all just minor fixes. So it is advisable. Everybody says that the first time you get a caravan, you need to take it out and sort of go around everything and work and see what works, so that if you've got any warranty claims. So this was all pretty intuitive. It's a shame that we lost that because we did film as sort of just using everything, but yeah, we're not going to go and try and act that again because it won't be genuine. So unfortunately, we missed out on that. But yeah, that was the point of the weekend. Only these minor things. However, there is one major issue that we do need to resolve. And that issue relates to the safe towing of this big 22-foot van. So I suppose this really just highlights the research you need to do. And I thought I did do enough research and understood GVM, GCM, all the things that you kind of need to know about weight. So I knew that this was going to be a heavy caravan. So tear weight, as we've got it, is 2.7 tons. We've got a 3.5 ton towing capacity vehicle, so a Land Cruiser 78 series. And when you just look at those numbers to the novice, you kind of think, well, you're well within the range there, and we're definitely within the GCM, that combined mass of both the vehicle and the caravan. So what's the issue? So 3.5 ton towing capacity, probably about 3 tons all up once we've got the water tanks full, and we don't have too much other weight inside the van, but we should have about 500 kilos left, which to play with, which is sort of the passengers in the vehicle and that type of thing. So pulling away in the cruiser, no problem. pulled all right. And then driving around, yeah, it's big, it's pretty long. We've got, you know, the Land Cruiser's long, this is long, so the combined length is long. That's okay, I'm used to towing. We've got boats, I've been towing, nothing this big, but I'm used to towing. That all seemed okay. Driving along sort of 50 k's an hour in the urban streets, no problem really, just sort of obviously conscious of the width and the length and all that type of thing, but no real issues. We jump onto the freeway, we're still pulling pretty good, accelerating away, no worries. Get to about 70 k's an hour and it was all over the show. The front, there's just no weight at all on the front. So the problem we've got, because we've got a troopy where the rear axle is compared to where the tow bar is, and then that length from where the caravan and the car hook up on the hitch, the length between the two axles, between the rear of the car and the caravan axle, is so long, you get this sort of seesawing effect, and the weight is just pushing down on the tow bar like that. So what that's actually doing is lifting the front of the car, so you've got this seesaw effect where you're being pushed down, the front's coming up, which means there's no weight on the steering. So didn't really notice it at urban speed, but the minute we got into sort of highway speed, yeah, it was just so light on the end. And it was, as soon as trucks came past, because it was terrifying, at 70 kilometers an hour was terrifying, and I just had to wait for the next exit to pull off and go on to one of the minor roads, which was a lot slower and fine again. But at sort of 70 k's an hour, we've got the nose up in the air, you've got the lights pointing up to the sky, you've got no, you know, it just makes that steering really, really light, which is quite scary. Plus that's going to have an impact on the braking capacity as well. So when I looked at it, it was obviously sagging down. We've got the stock suspension in the troopy, and it's just sitting too low. There's just too much weight on that tow ball. So I suppose the lesson learned is that yes, you may have a vehicle that on paper is a 3.5 ton towing capacity, but you're really just talking about those overall sort of masses. We've got a big heavy van, which means we have to do something to correct that sort of seesawing effect and get it level again. And I've been researching, and again, this is as the complete novice, there's a few things that you can do, and it's just weighing up which is the best option. So sort of springs to mind, the first thing I think, well, maybe we need to stiffen up the rear of the car, get some heavier duty springs, maybe some 500 kilo constant load springs, and just lift the back up so it doesn't push down as much. That's probably one option, but I do need to get advice on this, which is what I'll be doing later in this episode. Or the other thing I've seen is a weight distribution hitch, where you actually, what it does, it just counteracts that sort of seesaw, that sort of moment in the middle, and just it transfers the load of the caravan. Instead of sitting all on the back axle, it basically tries to transfer some of that load to the front axle and pull it back up again. So after doing a bit more research on the weight distribution hitch, or WDH is what they're often referred to, I'm just not sure that's going to work for us. So I think if you're just purely on the highway, they're going to work really well, because they just transfer that load, they distribute the load better so that you just sit up straight. But it does put a lot more stress, I think, from what I understand, on the rear end of the car and on the tow bar especially, which is fine probably when you're just on a normal sort of highway road environment. But what it's not going to cope well with is dirt roads, especially where you've got washouts, where you suddenly hit something uphill or round bends, or any kind of washout or sort of drain. They're just not going to be good in that scenario, and they could be quite dangerous at that point, because you're just transferring all that load. So I'm not sure that that's going to be the right option for us. So I definitely need some advice on this, because we certainly can't run it like it is at the moment. So yeah, watch this space. We will have to sort it out, because it's just not going to work for us at the moment. It's just too dangerous. So just bear in mind that, like, as a novice, it's not just as simple as the car can pull 3.5 tons, we've got a caravan that's under 3 tons, she'll be right type thing. It isn't like that. It's quite a bit more complicated than that. So yeah, this is a major issue for us, and we do need to get it resolved. So I'm going to go off later today to Pedders, and I'm going to start talking about the suspension upgrade option. I think that's going to suit me better than the weight distribution hitch, because I just don't think it's going to work for us for a lot of the things that we plan to do in this caravan. The problem with that though is that when you don't have a heavy caravan attached and you've got a really stiff sort of setup with the suspension, it's going to be an awful ride. And we do a lot of four-wheel driving as well, so yeah, it's just, you're never going to have the perfect scenario. So I think, you know, maybe our van is a bit too big for the car that we've got. Like, it's obvious really, you really need, obviously the van, you don't want the van being heavier than the car, and that currently is the case at the moment, but it probably won't be in the future, because I do have plans for the Troopy. It's a new car and there are mods that I want to do, and it will get a lot heavier than it is at the moment. So I think at some point we are going to balance back out in terms of the weight of both, and even with that we should be under the GCN. It's just at the moment we've just got that geometry issue where we've got that seesawing effect between the load of the caravan and the hitch on the car. So the car's just not sitting square on the ground and the wheels are lifting up in the ground. So from the small research that I've done this morning, there are ways that you can counter it, and it's just picking the right one for us, I suppose. All right, so a bit more about us. So I'm going to repeat some of the stuff that I've already filmed this weekend when we're on our shakedown trip. So we're a family of 3.5, and I say 3.5 because my eldest, so 18-year-old daughter, she's unlikely to ever come doing any kind of caravanning. She's just not into that. So there's 3 of us really that are going to do it. So my son and my wife. We are complete novices at caravanning. I'm not going to show you around the caravan now. We did do that at the weekend, but we'll save that for another episode. But we've basically, as I said, we've got a 22-foot Crusader Musketeer Empress caravan. We've got a Toyota 78 series Land Cruiser Troopy. That's our tow vehicle stock at the moment. And yeah, we've traditionally, myself and my son, done a lot of camping. We're well into the outdoor kind of scene, the 4-wheel driving, that type of thing. The wife, not so much. She wanted, you know, she's more into this type of setup. So we've bought the caravan so that we can do a bit more as a family. But we are absolutely green as when it comes to caravanning. So, and that's the point of the channel, I think. Just people like us that really don't know anything about caravanning. We've got experience outdoors, but just not caravanning. And it's really just that journey of learning how to do it, stuffing things up like we already have. And yeah, just that's what it's all about. So I'm about to go off to Pedders in a minute just to talk to those guys just about the problem that we've got with the seesawing effect and see what they advise. And yeah, we'll see where we go. So the reason I'm heading to Pedders and not the sort of traditional 4-wheel drive suspension places like Dobinson's or ARB or Tough Dog or anybody like that is because in the limited research that I've been doing to do with caravans, Pedders consistently keep coming up. So look, I'm going to go and have a chat with those guys, just explain the problem and just see what they recommend, because they also deal with Heyman Reese and those weight distribution hitches as well. So I'm just going to go in there with a fairly open mind and just see what those guys say. I think I'm sort of heading more towards a suspension upgrade route, but look, like I said, I'll go with an open mind and see what they say. Alright, so yeah, different scenario to what I expected. So Pedders have recommended new shocks in the back and airbags, so no new springs. And I did look at airbags and I wasn't convinced, but after speaking to those guys, they've convinced me. So whether it's right or wrong, I suppose we'll find out. But it did make a lot of sense with the airbags. Definitely not the weight distribution hitch, especially for what we want to do. So that was pretty much what I thought as well. They confirmed that. The beauty, I suppose, of the airbags is that we can adjust the ride height back up to what we lose with the sag, but not compromise the ride, especially when it's unloaded. So that would be the issue if I changed the leaf springs. So got to go back now, measure the ball weight. They've told me how to do that, and then they can just firm that up. So the quote for the airbags and the new shocks was about $2,500, so that's actually not too bad. And then at this stage they also recommended that I probably don't need to change the front shocks, which is great. So that saves a bit of money, given that I haven't got the bull bar or winch or anything on at the front. they reckon that, yeah, the front shocks are going to be okay. So I probably will change those once I increase the weight on the front, but for now, hopefully this will solve the problem. So yeah, fingers crossed. So this is what I'll be using, this tow ball weight scale, to weigh the tow ball weight of the caravan. So I basically need to position the scale underneath, wind the jockey wheel down, and what that will do is measure the weight that goes on the tow bar, on the tow ball, and then that they can help make sure I've got the right setup for the trooping. All right. So that's pretty much the wheel free. So what we're looking at, about 250 kilos. Just make sure. Just wind him right up, get him off the ground. Yep. So what's that? Yeah, about 240 kilos. So not too bad. Not too bad. Let's pump him back up again. Take the load off. Right, so we're just making our way to Pedders. Today's the day that we get the airbags fitted. So if you've made it this far in the video, awesome, really appreciate it. We must be doing something right. So yeah, thanks so much for that. Alright, so you're gonna have to wait until the next episode to see how the airbags go, but we'll test out the caravan. Hopefully it'll be all good. So once again, thank you so much for tuning in to Caravan Days. Hopefully we'll see you in the next episode, where hopefully we've fixed the towing issue, the big towing issue for this caravan, and for subsequent episodes where you'll get to see this Crusader caravan in action and some of our trips and our learnings on how to do caravanning. So yeah, hopefully we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.